So Peacemaker Season 2 has officially concluded with an unsatisfactory finale. I can say for a fact that the gun did in fact jam with this finale, however the season as a whole is not terrible. It is just very misguided in many episodes and we'll discuss that, but it's a very solid season but just nowhere near as good as the first season was, and the finale almost tears the entire thing apart. Before we get into why this season wasn't as good as the first one, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on what your thoughts were on Peacemaker Season 2. My thoughts, once again, I thought it was solid. It's just that it has a lot of things that kind of bugged me, and also the finale was actually kind of garbage. But with that being said, let's jump into what did work with the season, and that is, I think in concept, a lot of stuff was really good. I really like the idea of having Peacemaker discover another Earth in the doorway that he was using to essentially go to a different dimension, and in this Earth it's everything that he's wanted in his life, which that concept in of itself is maybe kind of cliche, but the way they handle it on an emotional level with James Gunn's writing I thought was phenomenal, especially with how they worked with John Cena in this series. There's a lot of emotional beats between him and his brother Keith that had passed away on his Earth, but in this other Earth is alive. They have an established history. His dad genuinely loves him. You can feel the emotions that he's going through in these moments. You can also feel the heartbreak he has when he feels rejected by Harcourt. And their romantic relationship, it was very believable throughout the entire season, and then you get to see that grow and as they open up to one another. Also love the 11th Street kids. I love the fact that they're more of an established friendship. They all feel like natural friends, and I love just how much they love Peacemaker in the season and how much they're willing to do for him. Also, another great story element that I loved throughout the entire season is that you have Frank Grillo, Rick Flag character Sr., and you have him going after Peacemaker due to the personal vendetta he has against him for killing his son back in the Suicide Squad. And that's a great concept, and it was also interesting to see him take more of an antagonistic role in this series, especially since in Creature Commandos he was established as more of a protagonist, but allowing his vengeance to kind of make him make very irresponsible decisions that will affect the DCU in the future, and we'll discuss that later. But I really liked the story element we have there, and when they come to a head, oh my gosh, that scene was very intense.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't regret.
And though the Earth X reveal was not very shocking, especially since we were kind of speculating when we got to see that there wasn't many people of color in this planet, it was still a great reveal. The way they handled it, and even though it wasn't surprising, it was still in a way still just kind of a surprising moment with how it was handled.
What got out? I'm black!
What?
Fuck me.
And also it led to a fantastic episode, which we will in fact discuss, but the problems with the season is in fact the pacing. The pacing is atrocious, and it does bother the viewing experience for the series. Episode 1 is a very solid episode and establishes the overall story from the beginning, a very solid start, and I thought to myself the season was about to be better than the first one from that first episode.
Activate magic stars.
It's when episode 2, 3, and then even 4 hit that I could really tell that it was really dragging its feet. It's rehashing things that we already know about these characters, and it's really dragging out the plot for the sake of plot. And there's not much progression in the story that we find interesting, and then they're touching on stories that we're finding not quite as interesting, and they're dragging on things like, oh, we're trying to break into Chris's house with Argus when we want to see Chris kind of explore this other Earth. That was a far more interesting plot that could have been established. That being said, when episode 6 hit, or even 5, with the plot of Eagly being known as the Prime Eagle, which was a fun subplot with him and the Hunter.
Eagly! I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
but then Chris deciding to go to Earth X, that's when the pacing takes an absolute speed train, a bullet train. Everything falls apart completely when Chris is on this other Earth. Things are revealed, such as it being a Nazi planet.
Oh boy, Nazis.
And then episode 7 being the best episode in the season and probably one of the best episodes in the series. Very, very emotional. Everything came full circle. There's a lot of moments that can tell us about ourselves. A lot of things that tell Chris about himself in these moments. Watching essentially his friends kill his father on this Earth that turned out to not be a Nazi, since it's an opposite Earth, was heartbreaking. And then John Cena's acting in the moment where he's seeing his brother Keith get killed in front of him again was absolutely heartbreaking.
Get off him! Get off him, please! Stop!
And the episode was very paced very well. Lots of great character dynamics, and had levels of emotion that probably were needed for the entirety of the season. Episode 7 should have been what the entire season was about. And then when we jump into episode 8, that's where the entire season fell apart, and there's nothing particularly quote-unquote wrong with the episode. It's just that you're placing a filler episode as the finale to the season, and that's what pissed me and fans off, because it felt like more of a filler episode. You have them doing random moments throughout the entire episode, lots of dragging of the pace, random concerts, and though it does establish some things for the DCU moving forward, there's a lot of things that felt unconcluded that were established in this season, which isn't the problem. The problem isn't necessarily the fact that there's a cliffhanger. The problem is the fact that there's a lot of things that on a story basis should have at least been concluded on some level. There's no level of satisfaction. And also when it comes to the writing of the season, I do think that the writing did feel kind of off, because if you really look at the overall season, there was nothing to really go against that was external. Everything was internal, which is kind of weird. The finale really did feel like a waste of time, and then it felt even more like a setup for Man of Tomorrow or the future of the DCU rather than being a finale for Peacemaker. Now, what did the finale of Peacemaker entail? Well, here's the direction that they're going in that's interesting and could be promising for the DCU going forward. So Rick Flag essentially wants to send all metahumans to another Earth that is supposedly empty, and he calls it Salvation. Salvation is based on a comic book run where in the comic books the government had gotten tired of all these metahumans and villains attacking their cities and everything, so they sent them to another universe. All the mainline DC villains were sent to another universe, and they called it the Salvation Run in these comic books. So you had all of the iconic characters like Joker, Lex Luthor, Cheetah, etc. And it seems to be the direction that they're going in, plus it's also a setup for Darkseid in the future, since Salvation in the Salvation Run comic book, it's turned out to not be an abandoned planet, but it's actually a testing ground for the parademons. So it seems that James Gunn's big picture is going to be to send all these villains over to this planet and then introduce Darkseid slowly, which will in fact be very interesting. My conclusive thoughts on Peacemaker Season 2 is that while I did enjoy the series and episode 7 I absolutely adored, I feel like it could have been a lot better. The pacing could have been better. There are some things that felt repetitive that did not need to be repeated throughout the entire season. And I think out of all the DC projects that came out this year, I think this was actually my least favorite of the bunch in the DCU. In my ranking, I would actually go Superman, Creature Commando, and then I would go this series with Peacemaker. Gunn definitely got jammed on this season, but still not a bad watch if you want to have something that's enjoyable.